We're now ready for the final session of NextUp Soccer Summit. In our final panel, we're going to explore how the 2026 World Cup will impact the future of U.S. soccer. So I'm pleased to introduce our moderator, Matt Libber. He's the Executive Director of the Maryland SoccerPlex. Please welcome to the stage, Matt.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Thank you to League Apps for having us panel, and thanks for soccer.com for sponsoring this event. I want to introduce you to a fantastic panel to talk about the World Cup. These three individuals are titans of the industry and have been around for a long time and have done a lot of big events, so they're going to be great to listen to. So first up, we have Kathy Nelson. She is the president and CEO of the Kansas City Sports Commission. Kathy, come on.
Hello, everyone.
All right, and next up, we have Monica Paul. She is the executive director of the Dallas Sports Commission. And last, and definitely not least, is Terry Hasseltine. He is the president of the Sport and Entertainment Corporation of Maryland. So thank you to the three of you for coming on and talking about the World Cup. I know this is taking up a lot of time that you would normally be working on the World Cup, so we'll try and get as much information as we can out here. So first, so everybody probably isn't familiar with what the process is. So Kathy, can you kind of talk us through what the World Cup process was up to this point and what you guys have done so far and how we got here?
Sure. Well, thanks for having us. As Matt mentioned, we're all leaders in our organizations and also leaders in the sports industry and sports commissions. We've all worked really hard and closely together on the World Cup. Kind of back in 2017, maybe even 2016, different North American cities started to work on a bid response to be included in the United Joint Bid, which included the United States, Canada, and Mexico. So it was a unique and different approach back then to combine all three countries into this united bid. So from there, cities then were decided on who would be included in this united bid, which is made up of those three countries. And we then anxiously awaited the decision. Finally, the voting for the awarding of the 2026 World Cup took place during the 2018 FIFA annual conference, which was held in Moscow. And at that time, on June 13th of 2018, the 2026 FIFA World Cup was awarded to the united bid made up again of Canada, Mexico, and the U.S. The U.S. bid, our united bid, was actually selected over Morocco with a vote of 134 to 65, I believe. So the difference is now the 2026 FIFA World Cup will have 80 matches total, which is an increase over the previous 64 matches that have always been held there. So there'll be 10 United States cities, 3 cities in Canada, and 3 cities in Mexico that will make up that. And Kansas City now is one of the 17 U.S. candidates in consideration, hopeful to be that 10 of the shortlist 10 for the United States cities as we move forward. So that's how we got to where we are today.
Thank you for kind of background there, Kathy. And, I think it still should be noted that the U.S. still holds the record for attendance from the 94 World Cup. No one's ever beat us since then. So we're trying to top that number. So we got through the bid process from FIFA, and now we were awarded the World Cup. So Terry, talk us through what's going on right now and obviously how COVID had affected the timeline for that and what you guys as cities are working on at this moment.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. The last, 8 months or so has been kind of the re-envisioned site visit planning process. FIFA was supposed to come into town and visit our destinations last summer. However, because of COVID, that all got pushed back to a bunch of virtual options. Last July, we met with FIFA independently in our one-on-one meetings where people went through the due diligence of asking us more questions about our venues, about our logistics and our plan. Then over the course of the past fall, we continued to provide them details specific to our destinations. About a month ago, they started a one-on-one rounds with each one of the 17 candidate cities discussing more of our technical logistics of our buildings, all the way from the pitch dimensions to sightline review and overture to, how we plan to address some of the things that they're asking us to do in our buildings. That process, like I said, went through all 17 cities. We all were subject to the same type of Q&A. And then the next step in the process, obviously today, we had documents due back to U.S. Soccer and FIFA as pertains to the renovations and construction we potentially look to be doing in our building between now and 26, how we plan on addressing some of the concerns that they might have had with our building in our operational plans and our footprint. And then another series of, workshops will concur here sometime this spring. And then that process carries on. And I know we're set up, I believe all the other cities are set up for site visits in Q3.
So Monica, you get the next side of this. Site visits are obviously next. What does that entail? What comes after that? And what's the process after the site visits leading up to the World Cup? Because obviously we're 5 years away now. It seems a far away, but we're planning this now.
Yes, actually, yeah, I think all cities of what they're planning and proposing to FIFA, you're not just thinking of the immediate, over the next 12 months, you're thinking, how are we going to carry this load all the way to 2026, and what really legacy and positive things can we leave here for our communities and increase the scope of soccer. So really next steps after what Terry has talked about are those site visits. We're anticipating them to be about 2 days. Very heavy, I think, intense stadium, taking a look at that and what the controlled area looks like. And the first time for the FIFA officials to really be able to envision in all of our communities what that World Cup in 2026 should look like. Additional stuff that FIFA will be kind of evaluating, I think, going into those site visits, your transportation, your other airport infrastructure, training venues. I think we're going to be getting into discussion here in these next round of virtual meetings. So during a site visit, each city's probably going to want to show off their assets. And I think in the April-May time period, when we do sit down with FIFA, we may get a glimpse in terms of maybe some weaknesses in each of our cities that we can then address during the site visit. So we have, 3 to 4 months to address those and get our plan situated. And then really after those site visits, I'm anticipating a lot more maybe communication and negotiation and sharpening pencils and that sort of thing for FIFA to make their decision by the end of December 2021. And then really, I think December 2021, they'll announce who the host cities are. We're probably not going to get any additional information on who's hosting the finals or semifinals or things like that. There's, definitely not going to know match schedules or anything like that. Other pieces of the World Cup, I think, come after they announce those host cities in December.
Yeah. Matt, may I add one other piece to that? And I think we're all working on it right now. Is the human rights document that is due at the end of June of this year. We're all working towards a master working document on human rights. So think of it bigger than just a game of soccer. It's about a totality of how we're going to operate our community and things we're going to be looking after while FIFA's in town in 26.
But I'll say that they also added a real prime focus on sustainability as well. So I'm sure you're all working on how to make this a green World Cup. And I know a lot of us are trying to do zero carbon footprints with it. So I know that's a big part of your job too.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's actually, we're going to ask this question anyway, but someone already put it in the Q&A. So we'll jump right to that. And this will be for all of you to kind of talk about how are you guys engaging with your local community? And obviously the makeup of this summit is people all across the country. They may not even be in a World Cup city or near it. How can they potentially be involved? And how are reaching out to those communities and saying, hey, come be part of our bid, even though you may not even be in the same state as us, but we're the closest venue to you. So we'll start with you, Terry. What's Maryland doing for that?
Well, we're taking a unique strategy, I think, to some of the approach, because we're in a very condensed area of opportunity. DC to the south of us, Philadelphia to the north of us, right along the I-95 corridor. So, really trying to engage, Baltimore in its total, along with the state of Maryland as well. But we're also doing some outreach beyond our borders to create some strategic initiatives that can engage communities, in Africa, in Europe, Asia, and South America as part of our legacy portfolio, trying to build a climate of how people can be engaged, not only from the youth development side, but the fans of the game of football, as it's called everywhere else in the world, and figuring out how we might integrate those national connections with our domestic, culture. We have a very big Nigerian population in our in our community. We have a very big, El Salvadorian population. So how are we connecting those countries as well as our local community so that we can ingrain the game of football into the next generation of athletes, and using not only the local environment, but also stakeholders across, into other continents and other countries as a part of our equation. Because of that tight niche, it's hard for us to go up into, Pennsylvania and or down into DC and Virginia because of that, little lack of better word, turf war kind of discussion. But we are approaching it from, Baltimore to Maryland to countries of interest because of our demographics.
So Monica, what is Dallas doing? Obviously, there's not a lot of people around you from a city standpoint, so you have a much bigger range, but you also have a huge population in Dallas. How are you incorporating them into your bid?
Yeah, so we're really pursuing this from a regional standpoint. So incorporating Arlington to Fort Worth to Frisco to Dallas and everywhere in between. We've got probably about 24 different committees working on different items, from obviously the human rights to transportation to volunteers to marketing and branding awareness, and the list goes on and on. So really trying to utilize our board members, but then also utilize ambassadors for us and people that can actually, do get down and dirty and do some work and create some programming for us. So a lot of city leaders, Chamber of Commerce members. We're very lucky and fortunate here in Dallas to have a pretty significant youth grassroots soccer portfolio and clubs, and North Texas Soccer Association and the Dallas Cup, which actually is going on right now here in town, that really want to be engaged. And a lot of people remember what 1994 was like when Dallas hosted the World Cup. Actually, probably even more so than some of the other major events that we have hosted, and they realize the legacy that it can lead here. So we've done a pretty good job, I think, of engaging with our universities and the sport management programs. So we have them engaged in a few projects and platforms that we can build, and they can actually, hopefully execute in 2026 when we host the World Cup. So community involvement, I think, is really critical, and it's been good now to kind of have a timeline for FIFA, because I think a lot of us have been kind of sitting on these plans, excited about the opportunity and ready to engage, and COVID had us do a little pause, so it's kind of nice to be moving forward again.
So Kathy, you're in a unique spot. You're now the flag carrier for the Midwest. Obviously, Chicago in for the bid, so you're kind of carrying the mantle for an entire region of the U.S. So how are you approaching this from a regional standpoint?
Yeah, well, just like both of them, we have an executive committee made up of unique leaders and civic groups throughout the community, but we're very much focused, Matt, as you said, on the region. And we have a staff person that every day is working on different state associations, youth associations. Right now we have 8 different states that are supporting our bid with, we have kc2026.com where you can go in and sign a petition, bring the World Cup to the Midwest. So that's one way to get involved. You can sign up that you want to volunteer. We show up at youth soccer events right now throughout this 4 or 5 state region. So if you'd like the KC, we keep the World Cup trophy here, not the real one, but that travels, and we can take it out and you can take a picture with the World Cup trophy. So we're just trying to engage very much from a grassroots effort right now, knowing that we don't have Monica.
World Cup trophy is here, my dear, in the Dallas region. Get your fake trophy out of here, Kathy.
Right now. So we are, again, just trying to get that groundswell of support. And then we really have a roadshow that multiple people can go out and talk with your soccer clubs. How can you get involved, sign up to volunteer, help us tell that story of why it should be here in the Midwest. But then also, Rotary clubs, chambers, pretty much what everyone's doing, because not only do we have this huge lift right now with getting these bid documents done and complete and submitted, then the negotiation takes part, but then the fundraising piece of all of this. None of us have ever fundraised to this level that maybe Monica in 94, I was still in school back then, but I'm kidding. I was Yes, I was not in school. But I mean, seriously, when we think about some of these events we're hosting, like we're getting ready to host the NFL draft in 2023. Monica's hosted the NFL draft. We had to raise money. We have to raise money for that. But again, it won't compare to the kind of money we have to raise for the World Cup. So that's how we need you, is helping us tell the story. We don't necessarily need your dollars right now. We need your heart. We need your passion to make sure that we're coming to cities near you where you can participate, whether that's as a ticket in the stadium or at a fan fest event, or volunteer for the World Cup. Not many people in their lifetime can say they've volunteered at a World Cup event.
So the next piece of this to talk about, and you kind of all kind of touched on it a little bit, is the legacy of this. So unlike a lot of major sporting events in the world, we shouldn't have any white elements. No one's building a stadium for the World Cup, so we don't have to worry about that piece of it. But we want to make sure the World Cup has an impact on our community that's long lasting. So let's talk through what that means for your community and how you're approaching it, or if you want to talk about specific projects. Monica, we'll start with you.
Sure. This is a key area for us. After 94, the big legacy in terms of MLS and what professional soccer means here to our community. I've already kind of mentioned the number of kids that participate in North Texas soccer. Well, we're over 115 soccer fields short here in the DFW area, and that's not even taking into account some of our suburban cities. So one of our legacy is definitely going to be providing additional soccer fields for the demand. Now, 115 of them, no, unless Kathy and I really get on that fundraising wagon here to be able to get 115. But before, by 2026, we'll need even more than that with just the number of people. And I think we want to take it a little step further, because it's great to have fields, but then you also have to be able to provide opportunity for those that, might not be able to afford to play in a club or lessons. So obviously the affordability standpoint of it, the equipment that may be needed for some of these kids to be able to play, and then as well as coaching. So we want to invest in some coaching aspects here. I think there's going to be we have other things on our legacy program, how it builds into a greater Dallas Sports Commission and legacy of what that looks like from an organizing committee moving on to other major events after 2026. But I think those are our key ones that we want to focus on at this point, of leading back from a youth soccer standpoint.
Kathy, how about Kansas City? What are you guys focusing on?
Similar to Monica, is making sure that everyone has the opportunity to participate, to grow the beautiful game, right? We want everyone to start to really know football. We're very much NFL people in the Midwest. And so for us, it's truly growing more grassroots of getting your kids out to play, even though it's massive here in our city. We've talked about futsal courts, making sure that in the urban core area that we may not be able to build, may not have space for a full soccer field, but putting in futsal courts so kids can have the opportunity to play like that. We have worked on an education plan where we're taking into schools, once we were awarded this, that schools are assigned countries and they really start to learn about what this means and how it goes beyond the sport of soccer. But I think for us, even the other kind of unwritten thing right now for us is the word united, and this united bid. When you think of our country being so divided lately, for us, we're a city that splits two states, that splits multiple states around us. So the united bid has provided opportunities for us to unite our Democratic and Republican governors. We're united communities that wouldn't ever have an opportunity to talk or to connect without the sport of soccer. So that's kind of an intangible for us. It's already in the works and we're seeing it work right now. But I think for us, truly a legacy project and program is focused on youth mostly.
So Terry, how about Baltimore? What are we doing here?
Well, we're obviously doing a lot of similar stuff to the other, ladies on the panel and the work that they're doing in Dallas and Kansas City. We're obviously trying to make an impact on the growth of the game, especially in the youth community as well as the underserved communities across the city of Baltimore and the state of Maryland, working with the Maryland State Youth Soccer Association and its 60,000 plus members to make sure that the beautiful game is one, recognized, two, that we continue to grow our activity base. But I think for us, we're really focusing beyond just the game of soccer. We're talking about how are we leaving a better place for the next generation of kids to live in our cities and live in the state, making sure that the footprint is well beyond 2026, connecting with various organizations and initiatives to make sure that that footprint, that just bidding on the World Cup is a legacy in its own right that is leading to new and stronger programs coming, into market. But winning the rights to host in 26 obviously gives a new platform because of that activation of actually hosting, matches in M&T Bank Stadium will allow us to then extend those, footprint legacy plans that we're putting into place now well into 2030 and beyond. And, taking Project Corp, which is a blight demolition program that the Maryland Stadium Authority is overseeing, and how we're taking some of that space and then converting into green space so kids can be kids and have open spaces in which to play in a safe, and secure environment, making sure that we're taking care of the people who are, coming to our destination as well as work in our destination, workers' rights and human trafficking and those type of things. And going back to your earlier statement, Matt, talking about the legacy of sustainability, what are we doing to, leave, Baltimore in a better place from a green and more sustainable, marketplace, and, engaging communities and giving back in programs that the World Cup is giving us the gateway to do that might have nothing to do with soccer, but it does give us the chance to interconnect with, city and state leadership and international leadership that if you weren't pursuing this, you wouldn't have that doorway to open or that doorway to go through.
And I think, Matt, too, to that point, this is the biggest event any of us will ever host in our lifetime. And the legacy will transform our cities, our communities and states, things that we don't even understand yet. And I think that, we talk about a legacy program, we're working on it now, but I think 6-8 years from now, after we host this event in our cities, it will transform our cities. And that's where I get really excited about what does that look like? How can, I can't even imagine just yet of what that will be.
So, Monica, there's a question for you. They asked how much is FC Dallas, the Cowboys, Mavs, Stars, and all the pro teams in your city cooperating on this bid?
Oh, well, they're definitely the top part of our bid committee. Dan Hunt, son of Lamar Hunt, brother of Clark Hunt over in Kansas City. He's the chair of our bid committee. So the entire FC Dallas team is very much involved. From a stadium standpoint, the Cowboys and the Jones family very much involved. We'll start to see them a little bit more engaged and a little bit more forward focusing here as we get through site visits and some spokespeople that we'll have coming out from a Cowboy standpoint. All of our professional teams are kind of aware and have said that they want to help whenever they possibly can. The Mavs, especially in terms of the human rights side of things and the diversity, equity, and inclusion side of things with St. Marshall and really what they've gone through over these past 2 to 3 years is kind of really helping us on our human rights side as well. So everybody, I don't know if it was Kathy or Terry mentioned it earlier in terms of how can people get involved. A lot of different ways, and we've got a lot of people that are very, very excited. Some just hearing about the opportunity, but very excited to help push this along for us.
So kind of off script on this one, but I'm sure one of you or all of you have this number in your head. Talk about the economic impact to a city that hosts the World Cup and what that means financially for a city. And any of you can answer that one.
Well, for us, it's a guess, right? It depends on how many matches you'll have, but we've heard hundreds of millions of dollars could be the economic activity around this. I'd heard at one point $1 billion for a city that gets to host a semifinal and beyond. I don't know if you can quantify that just yet, but we're guessing at least 600 million, if not more, of impact to that city that's hosting.
Yeah. We just did an economic internal analysis with our economist of record, and we're projecting, we did everything from 4 to 6 matches, and we're estimating anywhere between, mid upper 300 million to 700 plus million, depending on where you are in rounds and, what scope of events that you have in concert with that. The Fan Fest could be a huge part of this process. Being on the East Coast up the I-95 corridor, if we're in that, early match round play, all those nations that are, interjecting themselves into our market, those fan bases could be bigger than we can anticipate. So, there's a wide range of where the economics could be on this thing, but all of us know that it's in, some pretty high numbers and higher than anything that we've ever dealt with.
So, Monica, you kind of touched on it with the answer to the question previously, but Terry, I would say I know our bid a little better. Talk about how diverse the group is that's working on this. Obviously, the chair of ours is our lieutenant governor, but talk about some of our ambassadors and where they're coming from non-sports backgrounds to be a part of this.
Yeah, I mean, I think Monica touched on it. People who are coming out to be a part of this effort. I mean, we have people in the entertainment business. We did a video with Mike Rowe as the voiceover. Ray Lewis coming out of his background in the NFL, but just really loves the city of Baltimore. Angel McCautry in the women's basketball. Gucci coming out from the U.S. men's national team. We have several others that are going to be announced here in the next several months. But it's amazing the energy and enthusiasm people have for an event of this magnitude. They just want to be associated with it, but they also see it as a way, because we're talking legacy. They see that some of their platforms tie right into some of the things that we want to do with the World Cup. And so we have this really great fabric, and this World Cup bid effort is giving this the cloth that we need to weave together to make the right scarf in order to protect our city and protect our state. So we're really excited about all the people that are coming out to support the bid. And it's really amazing about how many people are really stepping up in the forefront to say, I'm in.
So I don't see any other questions, so we'll just go around. Anything last you want to add? Kathy, we'll start with you.
Well, again, we're thrilled to even be at the table with this. And as Monica said, our professional teams are all in. Some of our names, of course, are Patrick Mahomes and Salvador Perez with the Royals. They all want this here so bad. And I think for us, this United 2026 is truly uniting our city. And I'm very proud of that, no matter how this plays out. But I feel like we're a pretty strong contender to be able to host matches.
Give me the website for you guys again so people can go to it if they're interested.
It is kc2026.com.
All right. Monica, you're up next. Your last words.
Well, I think for us, I mean, for Dallas fans, or actually anybody who wants to support this World Cup in any of the cities, I think, we already have a lot of great soccer that's taking place here locally, and it's going to continue to grow over these next 5 to 6 years. So continue to get out there and support and help the local sports commissions or the organizations that are run these soccer events are going to continue to help pave the way for that World Cup in 2026. So a lot of different ways to get involved and even leave a bigger legacy for the World Cup through hosting soccer.
Throw your website out there as well.
WorldCupDallas.com.
Okay. And my unbiased opinion, the best bid in the whole package. Terry, go ahead with Baltimore.
Yeah, Baltimore Md 2026.us. So again, that's Baltimore Md 26.us. No, we're really excited about the opportunity. Like Kathy and like Monica, we're just excited to be going through this process to be able to put our city and our state on the global map with the soccer community across the globe. And, we think that we have a tremendous offering to provide, the football loving fans across the globe. We think we have a premier destination that is second to none out there in the marketplace. And that if selected in December of 21, we look forward to welcoming the world to Baltimore. Baltimore Md 2026.us.
Well, I just want to say thank you to the three of you for coming on. It's been great listening to what you guys have to say, and good luck to all three of you. And hopefully all three of you get the city, be a host city.
We look forward to that.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks to Matt and to Terry, Monica, and Kathy. I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm really excited about having the World Cup here in 2026. I also want to take this opportunity to thank all of you for being here with us today, and to soccer.com for co-organizing this event with League Apps. I want to, Brendan, if you could turn on your mic and your camera and join me up here on the stage and say a few words on behalf of soccer.com.
Well, thank you for the opportunity. And I too want to thank all the moderators and league apps for putting on the event. I mean, I know these events take a lot of effort and take a lot of time. So, in years to come, I think when soccer people think about the past 12 months, I hope that they do not remember events like today fondly. Because when you remember an event fondly, it's because it's not part of your current life. It's something in your past. And really what I hope people remember is that this year was the foundation of a habit that has developed over time. As Louise mentioned, I don't think we need any more digital meetings, so hopefully we can get them in person soon. But I think for soccer people, we've built our careers in this sport, but our off-field link-up play is not something we spend a lot of time developing. Most of us are competitive by nature and fear losing an advantage. However, for the past 12 months, soccer competitors have come together in events like this to learn, and I think most importantly, collaborate. I think pre-COVID, the majority of people in soccer would have looked at an event like this the way most of us view stretching or wearing sunscreen. You should do it, you'll be better for it, and yet you find reasons to avoid it. I do not underestimate the issues that our sport faces. And I don't underestimate the complexity that will need to happen to address those issues. In fact, during one of the breaks, a topic at one of the tables was the referee shortage, and that's an impending challenge for us. However, at this time, more than any other in my memory, I believe people are determined to find joy in their lives. And more importantly, if they have children, they are determined to have joy in their children's lives. I think soccer can and should be a part of that joy. I don't think that will just happen if we return to our pre-COVID habits. Some of those habits contribute to the issues soccer is now facing. I don't think there needs to be some sort of organizational overhaul or radical change. As individuals, we need to be mindful about getting out of our silos regularly, and perhaps getting a little uncomfortable with sharing. A foundational and important event that happens every year is the United Soccer Coaches Convention. However, we cannot allow our attendance there to check the collaboration box for the year. We need to seek out and be present at future events like this one, and selfishly, maybe a soccer.com match day. And in speaking to people who have attended soccer.com match days, the one thing they've enjoyed is it's bringing clubs from all around the country so they're able to let their guard down and share more and really learn best practices and not feel like, well, that's going to be used against me to recruit the local players or things like that. It was interesting following the World Cup group. I recently saw a fact that 83% of American soccer fans have played or are currently playing soccer. And while perhaps I think that's intuitive, it really stood out to me because I think in the soccer world, we're prone to carve up soccer. We talk about youth soccer. We talk about professional soccer. We talk about recreation soccer. We talk about club soccer, men's, women's, whatever. When in reality, there is a linear connection between a player playing for the first time at a young age and their lifelong connection to soccer. Simply put, we are all in this together, so it seems better to work together. As we return to the fields and the stadiums, you can feel it building the momentum, and you can feel it sort of coming back to sort of the way it was. I can also feel our commitment to collaboration going in the other direction. The past 12 months has seen incredible positive change, driven by the uncertainty caused by the pandemic. Some of that hard work has been highlighted today by a lot of the speakers. What if that change in the future happened proactively and intentionally? So my request to each of you is that in 2021, 2022, the road to the World Cup in 2026, you dedicate more time, energy, and resources, not only of you, but of your organization, to collaboration. And at the same time, remember to stretch and wear sunscreen. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Brendan, and again to soccer.com for co-organizing our first ever NextUp Soccer Summit with us. And thank all of you again for being here. As our president, Jeremy Goldberg, said a little bit earlier today, events like this are just one part of LEGAP's efforts to build a community of youth sports organizers, in this case, soccer organizers. And we really believe in strength in numbers, and that we can learn and share and grow together. As Brendan was talking about earlier, the spirit of collaboration can really help us all get better, and that together we can make an even bigger impact on soccer and all the youth involved in our sport. So thanks again for being here. Thanks again to soccer.com, to MLS Next, and all of our incredible panelists that spoke today. If you'd like to join our online community on Slack, I'm going to ask Tex to put in the chat, or Jenny, a link to our Slack channel, our NextUp Slack group. That way you can stay tuned to all of the upcoming events and programming that we're doing in our community here at LEGAP. So the event will stay open. So if you want to hang out and continue networking, feel free to do so. And we hope to see you again at our NextUp event in the future. Thanks again. Bye-bye, everybody.